Thank you everybody for joining us today. We are in our second session of our fourth month for intimate partner and sexual violence. We're talking most about communication prevention strategies. Today we're in our second session with Claire Mosby, presentation on mandatory reporting and just talking with your patients and continuing to build that trust. Right now we're working on workplace and institutional policies, how they impact the prevention of intimate partner violence. So in addition to just talking about the general mandating and rules in that sense, we want you guys to think about how your own institution runs these things and what kind of things you need for that. We have no disclosures, just to let you guys know. There's no financial gain, anything that any of us have that we would need to disclose. All right, so nursing contact hours, this does offer 1 hour of nursing contact hours. You'll get that certificate. Once you have completed through the whole presentation, you do have to answer the post-presentation polling questions. If you're an EMT or paramedic, you can present that certificate to your training officer, our CEU hours. Make sure you've answered this post-presentation poll. In December, we're going to be talking about resources as well, so just to let you guys know of that. We have our AMS grand rounds coming up in December as well. Today, we're going to just have a quick 10 to 15 minute presentation by Claire. And then we're going to put you in breakout sessions. You'll spend 10 minutes in your breakout room, and then you'll come back to the main room and share with the group. We will turn the time over to Claire and get things started.
Thank you, Jamie, and it's good to be back joining you all today. When we began our conversation around mandatory reporting for healthcare providers, mental health providers as well. So our last meeting together, we really looked at those reporting areas. Today, the focus will be more on building your comfort with discussing intimate partner violence with patients and how to have that conversation around reporting if that becomes mandatory. And then I would love it if when we say goodbye today, you're able to think about or consider a way that you could bring some more prevention type skills into your own workplace. You might already have great things going on, and you probably do, but there might be something else that you can think of to start implementing or discussing in your agency. This is essentially what we did 2 weeks ago in one slide. Like, man, I could have made that a lot shorter, huh? So here's what we cover primarily. The Utah Code for Injury Reporting Requirements by a healthcare provider. The main takeaway is that healthcare providers, which like all of you are, plus we have an LCSW, so you're in this mental health providers category at the bottom, but healthcare providers are required under Utah law to report to police if you are treating a patient who is there for an assaultive injury, right? For intimate partner violence, this falls under that mandatory reporting for injuries that are caused by weapons or other pieces. But when you're thinking specifically of intimate partner violence and not sure, just think about are they there for treatment for an assaultive injury? And if the answer is yes, this is an intimate partner violence victim or survivor and their injury is from that assault, that's a time when you do have to report. So a few other considerations of other times you can and should reach out to law enforcement is if there's threats that the patient will be killed by their partner, if they've been threatened with lethal weapons. That's important to also make a plan for contacting police around that. And also, anytime if your patient is telling you they feel unsafe, talk to them about calling the police. You can do it together or with them for that. Or you feel unsafe, right? If you feel unsafe, if the partner who is hurting your patient is there and engaging in a manner that is uncomfortable or seems dangerous to you, it is okay to call the police, to call your facility security to come in and get involved with that, right? Remember, we must report if there's children that are witnessing assaults occurring, right? Intimate partner violence assault. It's a mandatory reporting for child abuse in the state of Utah, so contact law enforcement or DCFS with that. For liability for healthcare providers, HIPAA allows healthcare providers to disclose, right? So you're not in violation of HIPAA if it's state law to contact an agency like law enforcement or DCFS and report, so you're not in trouble for following the state law there. But again, the state law does say that if you knowingly or intentionally are not making those reports, you could be found guilty of a Class D misdemeanor. And if you're ever not sure what, where this falls or what to do, talk with your coworkers, run it up to the legal department, get their opinion on that too. You can call police later to report if it comes back and says, oh yeah, no, that's the time we have to do it. So, check. If you're not sure at the moment, that's okay. But think about who you're going to talk to, who knows right away, and you can make that call later. We talked about the information you have to include. It's not a ton, so just in contact info of the injured person, and if you know where they are currently, and a bit about the injuries and the extent of those, right? And then tell them who you are and your contact info and all of that as well. And you also want to be reporting that also for your own records. And then again, for mental health providers, the duty to warn comes into play when a potential you have to warn the potential victim and law enforcement if the patient or client is communicating with you as a mental health provider a real threat of physical violence against a person that can be easily identified or reasonably identified. So that's our reporting requirement. But for the next few minutes, we will go through best practices of having these conversations with patients and communicating with patients about intimate partner violence and your reporting requirements and prevention strategies for you within that communication and your agency workplace facilities overall. When we're talking about prevention and primary prevention, we're looking at prevent disease or injury right before it occurs. So we're doing something that's going to intervene or change the trajectory or the culture of a society or environment. And there's lots of ways that we address primary prevention and can make that happen. For you all in your roles as healthcare providers, I ask you to, you don't have to chat or unmute and talk about it now, but just kind of be thinking, giving these sort of four mechanisms or goals of primary prevention. How can you participate in prevention strategies, right? What could you do to improve resilience if exposure occurs, right, with your work or even personal life? Just thinking about how you yourself can do this. And I'll give you some ideas right now. So primary prevention through patient interactions and policy are really key to incorporating this and understanding how healthcare providers can not just be responding to injury and everything else. I mean, you're responding a lot, but there's also preventative pieces in there where you are actors in primary prevention, with the ways that you engage with patients and the conversations you're having with them and the information you're sharing, the compassion you're showing them. That's increasing primary prevention within those interactions that patients will continue to utilize or cascade throughout other relationships in their life, right? So that behavior you are modeling and bringing to them is improving their safety and protective factors in those lives. And policies, of course, in all of our work everywhere, right? Those are things at an institutional level, organizational level, or just around a certain area that you're responding to. So are there policies that are going to help healthcare providers or institutions recognize and respond to intimate partner violence? or sexual violence, and with creating strong policies and having proper follow through with them, that's how we create prevention strategies really with bigger picture level. And to me, when I think about healthcare providers, which I'm not a healthcare provider, but I look at the work that can happen as really unique and special opportunities to be engaging with potential and current victims and survivors, and having conversations, either one-time basis or ongoing. I know many people have reoccurring relationships with patients, and those are really unique ways to continue modeling that sort of preventative communication skills and behavior, to be assessing, to be creating this idea of here's what healthy relationships versus unhealthy relationships are. Someone's always talking to me about this. Now I know how to talk to my children, my friends, my coworkers about this because you're modeling that behavior and those skills to them. So you're special group to have this sort of opportunity and access. When we're bringing in policies, procedures, this is, I believe, if you've attended these training courses before, this will be familiar to you. Dr. Tepi Ferenczak shared this with me, and I just want to remind you of it, that this is a sample, right, of an idea for implementing procedures within your office facility that you can use, that's encouraging preventative measures. And by implementing strategies for assessing and communication, right? The conversations you'll have, the reports you're going to make, the treatment plans you're going to do. So something like this is a preventative measure you could implement or consider implementing in your agency. And it's not that intense, I would say, to reading through it, of course. I know cutting through red tape can be difficult, but here's a model of a policy you could consider. Within your organization as well, right? This is about the culture of your workplace and the environment there. And what does that look like, right? Our institutions are pretty powerful and do have a lot of ability to sway and set and reinforce norms, positive or negative ones. So I would ask and suggest, consider where you work, your office, in your clinic, on your floor, wherever you are, what's the culture there, right? Are there stereotypes that are reinforced? Are there harmful things that go on that are kind of deemed okay? That's not a big deal to have sort of behavior that might not be healthy or appropriate or professional even. What does that look like? And how is that culture further maybe playing into gender stereotypes or oppressive systems for anyone, right? Whether they're victim, survivor, or never experienced abuse. So what is that culture of intolerance of violence like in your agency? And how are interactions between staff, right? What are your communications looking like? Because people who are visiting and patients are watching that and checking out what you all are doing, and that is kind of sets a standard for others. Talking and working with patients, and this goes back to if it is necessary to report to law enforcement, right? If this is an instance where you have to mandatory report, think about how you can involve the patient in that process, if it's safe to do so. So you don't have to involve the patient or tell them ahead of time that you're calling the police. Just recommend you do, but it's not a requirement by HIPAA. If it would be safer for the patient, then you're not required to. But could they call the police and make that report, or tell them what's going on themselves? So if they can do that, that still covers, like, you're covered liability wise, but that empowers that victim to get some control back in their life of their own situation, and they're able to provide more details to law enforcement. Other pieces that are important to do is talking with that patient and that person about what's going to happen and what does it mean for their safety and the next few days if police are involved. If the person that's hurting them knows that police are now involved. And this can be when it becomes important to engage in some safety planning. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that, because you're not expected to be trained in safety planning, but we're just going to talk about what it is and what to kind of do and think about. So engaging with law enforcement can be triggering for victims and perpetrators of abuse. So thinking about what that's going to mean if someone finds out that their partner told law enforcement that they've been hurt by them. And also, again, this is not something you're expected to know everything about, but be prepared with resources. If you're making a mandatory report, or even if you're not, if they tell you that they've experienced abuse in their relationship, but they're not seeing you right now for an assaultive injury, right? You don't have to report that, but you should be providing resources, making referrals. So we'll look at what that can mean for you directly. And then we'll switch into a scenario to kind of practice some of this with further breakout questions too. But before we do that, safety planning at its kind of core basic foundation is it's a plan. It's personalized for every person who's getting it or having one implemented, and it's something you can use in practice, right? And it's going to include ways to remain safe while in the relationship, if you're planning to leave a relationship, or after they leave. Now, it's not just for victims and survivors, but like if you would like help with a safety plan for yourself, in terms of I want to know how to safety plan with someone, there are ways to get support with that as well. And again, you don't have to do it all, right? You don't have to be the one to say, I know how to make a beautiful, perfect safety plan. No, no one is expected to do that, right? You've identified that there's intimate partner violence or other forms of violence occurring, and that's huge. So just so that speaking with the patient about what they're experiencing is already supportive in preventing further violence, and again, that cascading through. So your communication and your recognizing that there's violence occurring is the crucial first step. But what you can do is call on experts in your workplace. Is there someone in your office? Is there a social worker who is specifically there to help with these sorts of cases that you would call and say, can you come down and do a safety plan, or can we set them up with a follow-up appointment with you? Also, there's agencies within the community you could call for immediate support as well for safety planning, and who would know direct resources that are going to be most applicable to that person. So you don't have to know it all, but if you know who to ask, right? You don't have to be able to do it. You just have to figure out who's the best person to call on or reach out to. And if you don't know that right now, that's okay. That's okay too. In December, you're going to be talking all about resources. So I think that you will be in pretty good shape after that. But there are a lot of opportunities to reach out for help. So you're not alone in it ever. Even if you think you've done this a million times, it's always okay to reach out to coworkers or other trained professionals within these instances, because they are complex and want to improve and increase safety for patients and ensure you are safe as well. We have let's see, Allie and Linda have agreed to role play a bit of a scenario for us. Here's a sort of just a snapshot of what's maybe happening with when a patient comes in or presents to your department or the emergency department with an injury, but then you find out that or realize this isn't a simple injury. This looks like an assault, and this means that you are required to report to law enforcement and talk to the patient around that. So I will say, Allie and Linda, would you care to jump in?
Thanks, Claire. So at this point, Linda has walked into the emergency department and we're about to start her triage. And this is from a nursing perspective. Hi, Linda. My name's Allie. I'll be the nurse taking care of you today. What brings you into the emergency department?
Hi, Allie. Thanks. Yeah, I was outside and, it's kind of slippery and icy outside, and I was walking my dog and I actually slipped and I fell on a really icy patch on the sidewalk. So I hit my face and I'm kind of worried that it might turn into a black eye or something. So I thought I should just come get it checked out.
Yeah, I can see that. Looks like it really hurts. When you fell, did you lose consciousness at all? Do you have any other injuries?
I don't think so. Not real. I mean, my arm kind of hurts.
Okay.
My shoulder, but I don't think I lost consciousness, really.
Okay. Let me go ahead and grab some gauze to clean this up so we can take a closer look at it.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
I'm cleaning. And as I'm cleaning, I'm actually noticing that these marks on your face are pretty round and uniform, almost like a bite. Did you hit something when you fell, or?
I don't really remember. I don't remember what happened.
Linda, I'm a little concerned because sometimes I see other patients with injuries like yours and they have those injuries because someone's hurting them. Is anyone hurting you?
Well, actually, I got in a fight with my boyfriend this morning, and I mean, we really care about each other, and I really love him. I'm kind of nervous. Actually, I just don't want to get him in trouble, so I didn't know what else to do. So I just came here, actually.
Okay, Linda, I'm so sorry this has happened to you. Thank you for telling me. I can help you. You came to the right place. But I do want to be open with you and let you know that because I'm a healthcare worker, I am required by law to report this to the police.
Does that mean that, like, he's going to go to jail and I'm going to have to press charges and go to court? I mean, because that's not what I want. I just wanted to make sure that my eye's okay.
Yeah. Linda, I know this all sounds very scary, but you're so brave to ask for help. I am not going to be the person to press any kind of charges. I'm just required to report this to the police because I'm a nurse. Let's go ahead right now, walk back to your room, take a closer look at your eye, get that taken care of first. And then let's talk more about options so you can come up with a strong safety plan just in case this ever happens again.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thanks. I can do that.
Thank you. Great role play. Great job. I think it's a great example and a realistic example. So thanks for sharing that with us. And I hope, everyone got to see sort of here's a natural progression of what pulling out details that an assaultive injury has occurred and how to begin to have a conversation with that victim around talking to the police and what that process sort of looks like. So with our breakout questions that we'll spend about 10 minutes in each room looking at, thinking about this scenario and using it to guide, but also be considering your own specific role and where you work. I know there's a variety here, so be thinking also about how your role would respond and what that looks like for your role. They know emergency department is different than others.